Welcome to Useless Agent, your safe space from stupidity and the magazine scary clown show. You are all fair game in the eyes of the wicked, and we see you. Here we go.
Uncle Ray! Oh shit, motherfucker! I'm Kenny Rogers! No! We suck again!
The greatest arrogance of all, save the planet. What? Are these fucking people kidding me? Save the planet? We don't even know how to take care of ourselves yet. We gotta learn how to care for one another. We're gonna save the fucking planet? The planet has been through a lot worse than us. Been through all kinds of things worse than us. Been through earthquakes, volcanoes, plate tectonics, continental drifts, solar flares, sunspots, magnetic storms, the magnetic reversal of the poles. Hundreds of thousands of years of bombardment by comets, asteroids, and meteors, worldwide floods, tidal waves, worldwide fires, erosion, cosmic rays, recurring ice ages.
Hey, cheesy. Alrighty, and today marks a new episode. How's it going, my beautiful starflies? Today is the 27th of December, so we're almost done with this shit. I'm happy to say that it's all over. We're done with the Christmas bullshit. We're done with the Thanksgiving bullshit. I told you guys at the beginning of this whole series that I fucking hate the holidays. So when it turns about around the 27th, I'm pretty damn happy because now I've dealt with the aftermath and all the previous bullshit that leads to the reason for the season of depression. I mean, look at the amount of depression. Look at the amount of suicide rates that rise up every Christmas year. And it's just perpetuated by making it come earlier and earlier and earlier every year. It was funny because for Christmas, I had some family. Of course, I had family over. But while I was playing the Ghostbuster, I love the Ghostbusters Wii video game on Nintendo Wii. It's really awesome. And so I'm playing that, and I love the fact that there's even a joke in there about Christmas coming way too early. And so Dan Aykroyd says, how much earlier could it be? They did it before they even celebrated Halloween this year. Someone trick-or-treated at my house as Santa Claus dressed up. Santa Claus came trick-or-treating in my house dressed as Dracula. And it's funny because the game was made, about 12 years ago, I think. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Now it's like fucking 15 years ago. So, yeah, it's just funny that even then, we've been complaining about this for years, and it just kept coming. So, I need to go on a shitty segue, then you're gonna fucking die. And then, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, we have a lot to cover today. So, upon listening to Donald Trump, and I know, but we have to get to it. We have to talk about it, unfortunately. Because it seems to me that no one is getting the big comparison here. We had a guy whose name wasn't Donald, but he definitely was a dick. And I'm talking about tricky dick, Richard Nixon. Nixon was a, impeached piece of shit. He was a crook. He crooked as they come. And it all started with the 1960 election and debates. Sorry. So as these the primaries were coming in, and you had basically Kennedy versus Nixon in the primaries and in the final of the election. Now, Kennedy wiped the fucking floor with Nixon because Kennedy was likable. Kennedy was attractive. He was young. Now, Nixon had actually gotten the job. This is not hyperbole. This is not an exaggeration. You can go look this up. Please do your own research. But Nixon had actually replied and responded to a ad in the newspaper that was written by none other than beautiful Prescott Bush. Now, Prescott Bush had literally written into that newspaper ad, "We are looking for a person of weak moral fiber," meaning we are looking for someone that has no scruples, no morality, no sense of right and wrong. It was put out so blatantly. I don't know if it was a way of saying, this is how brash we can be, or if this was a way of saying nobody's going to reply to this, and they did. But either way, Nixon pops right up, and Prescott Bush awards him with his favorite little matching cute little hats. And I shit you not, you can go look this up. I highly recommend you look up a movie called, there's a documentary called Everything is a Rich Man's Trick. And he will go all the way from World War I to 9/11. And it's amazing. It's a long one, but it's definitely worth the 3.5, 4 hours. It's amazing. You learn a lot. And, for me, when I watch a 4-hour documentary, that means it's going to take me about 8 to 10 hours to watch it, because I have to pause it, check my research, make sure that this isn't bullshit, because the last thing I want to do is say something and then someone completely debunk me. I do my best to make sure that that doesn't happen, because my facts stay with themselves. So, why am I bringing all this up? Well, it's pretty obvious. Now, Skinny Pete and I have been talking. Now, we did the show yesterday, and we had a couple of technical glitches because we have some new equipment. So, it happens. When you get new equipment, you have to get used to it. So, the first episode we had was talking about the book by Rachel Maddow called Prequel. And the book researches the kind of the comparisons, but really the historical levels of fascism in America, and being transferred by ideas coming from not even necessarily Germany, but really from just the psychotic crowd of fascists and white supremacists. And of course, they weren't called white supremacists back then. So we talked about a guy named George Sylvester Viereck. Now, George Sylvester Viereck, from 1884 to 1962, I think he died. Yeah, that's when he died in 1962. He was a German propagandist, and he liked to consider himself a poet. And so he had met all of these amazing historical figures. And so he noticed that when it came down to meeting guys like Nikola Tesla, Sigmund Freud, Adolf Hitler, he had literally said that Adolf was a ticking time bomb, but was the most interesting of the group to him. So Viereck ended up, writing about all of these things. And the comparisons between Hitler, Nixon, and Trump are amazingly similar. So what I want to do is give you some context and show you Kennedy versus Nixon, just for a couple of seconds, so you can see the amount of uncomfortability and how you could tell this was definitely not Nixon's year, and Nixon was going to have to wait until he was a good boy. And so yeah, this is the first 1960 debate, and we're not going to really watch the whole thing. I just want you to see how uncomfortable Nixon is and will appear, because he is not a likable person. Now, you can compare this to DeSantis. You can compare this to whoever you want. But this is really funny. They always have the same things in common. Like, the standard posture is always strange. And they always seem like they have a rod right up their ass.
That completes the opening statements, and now the candidates will answer questions or comment upon one another's answers to questions put by correspondents.
Those chairs don't even look comfortable. We got a better chair in here.
Roker, NBC News. I'm Charles Warren, Mutual News.
I have a swivel chair and
Bob
glass.
Fleming, ABC News. The first question.
I'm a guy that just broke in.
Mr. Fleming.
I just walked
Senator,
in.
the
How's
vice
it going?
president in his campaign has said that you are naive and at times immature. He has raised the question of leadership. On this issue, why do you think people should vote for you rather than the vice president?
Well, the vice president and I came to the Congress together. 1946, we both served in the Labor Committee. I've been there now for 14 years, the same period of time that he has. So that our experience in government is comparable. Secondly, I think the question is, what are the programs that we advocate? What is the party record that we lead?
Now, I want to take a second just to notice the behavior mannerisms of that, because, as you know, this is a psychological show. We love to analyze the psychology of human behavior. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to analyze how Kennedy is refusing to give up his point. Basically, you can tell that he's a kind of guy that when he thinks about something and he's on a roll, he's not going to hear you. He's in that moment. So the moderator is telling him to stand up and go to the podium when answering the questions. Pretty stupid, since you made them go sit down. If they're going to stand up and answer questions, well, why are they sitting down in the first place? So as Kennedy answers the question, he is rudely told to go up to the podium. You kind of should have mentioned that beforehand. What would have been really awesome is if Kennedy said, no, I'm good right here, and just kept going. But back then in the 60s, if you showed disrespect, you were not taken as a serious candidate. That's because people actually took their presidency seriously.
Well, the vice president and I came to the Congress together.
So when he talks about how Nixon being the vice president, and then he's making his point. But when he's told to get up, notice he doesn't break a single, he doesn't stammer, he doesn't stutter, he doesn't freeze up. He finishes his point while he walks up. There's a lot of you can see that in Obama
now for 14 years, the same period
at his time of presidency. So I think that he just kind of modeled himself after Kennedy.
Secondly, I think the question is, what are the programs that we advocate? What is the party record that we lead?
Okay, so he's trying. Now, I love what he says in one instance. He says anything for one, or anything that can be enough for one man to take is usually enough for three men to share. Now, you can call that socialism. It sounds more like humanity to me. But he didn't say, I'll make it a rule where you guys have to share it. That would be socialism. But again, look at the comfortability, and then let's
Tennessee Valley.
Stop at
Nixon.
Nixon.
Natural resources. I think Mr. Nixon is an effective leader of his party.
You just got called ineffective, mediocre.
I hope he would grant me the same. The question before us is, which point of view and which party do we want to lead the United States?
Oh, he said effective.
Mr. Nixon, would you like to comment on that statement?
I have no comment.
I have no comment. Or see it? Exactly. So Kennedy was, at the same time as he's being polite, and he even says he was ineffective. I thought he said ineffective. He said ineffective. So, he gives you your respect. And that's why he said, I expect him to give me the same. So I like that. That's respect on both sides. So I think Kennedy couldn't help but respect. I think Nixon couldn't help but respect Kennedy, even though Nixon had the backup and Kennedy had a different kind of backup. He had Italians. I mean, literally, you had Frank Sinatra singing "Everybody's Voting for Jack." So Kennedy then goes against, we all know what happens to poor Kennedy, so we don't have to go into that. But after that, I just want to do this because it shows you the amount of just distrust that was in that White House. And so when we look at Trump today, all I see is another Nixon. It is completely Nixon. Now, we have Donald Trump saying that he did not ever sign a contract to defend the Constitution. When you put your fucking hand up, that's what you're doing. So when you try to say, I never said I was standing up for the U.S. Constitution, what Constitution were you fucking talking about? Like, I mean, I don't even have a joke for that because I don't know anything that has a Constitution, unless you're talking about poop. I don't know, incontinence. Seriously, I don't even have a joke for that. So, to say that, a president can't do anything illegal, that kind of reminds me of somebody. Oh, man. Who was that somebody? I wonder. Who was that somebody? Somebody said something really fucking stupid, like,
Well, when the president does it, that means that it is not illegal. Well, when the president does it, that means that it is not illegal. Well, when the president does it, that means that it is not illegal. By definition,
that's where it was. I knew I heard that dumb shit from somewhere. See what I'm talking about? It's the exact same guy. It's the same fucking guy. So, another way of bringing this up, since I was talking about the book Prequel. Now, Rachel Maddow's book Prequel, what it does is it gives us a great way of saying we've been here before. Here's how. Here's why. Here's when. And when you watch it, or when you read it, you're amazed that even the first chapter divulging into Viereck's exploits and the interviews with some of the most historical figures, it's really interesting how the common belief of proving the deterioration of a culture is always blamed on the acceptance towards alternative lifestyles. This is always the common trope that they go to. Like, as soon as you start seeing gay people being happy and not terrified of fucking everyone, that means we are in a bad place, people. I mean, what kind of fucking Nazi-ass fucking way of thinking is that? Really, honestly. So, I want to show you real quick Frost and Nixon. Now, Frost was given, hours and hours of footage with Nixon. And he also knew the power of television, because even in those times, which I think this is the late 70s, even then they knew that, the printed word was no longer as important as the actual video, the actual interviews and TV shows. So he was making a like 4-part 90-minute documentary, so it'd be that many hours of footage, and the way he talks about him really shows us that Nixon thought exactly the same as Donald Trump.
He is stonewalling, or from what you've learned in your research, lying. What will you do?
I shall say so.
Damn
again,
right.
And again and again. I must say that I shouldn't give the impression before getting to the session that I am implying that I think he will be lying, because I don't think that the Stonewall approach will be the one he'll take. I hope the approach he'll take will be the one of a cascade of candor.
A cascade of...
A cascade of candor from Richard Nixon. Now, again, this is like saying, oh, I expect an apology from Trump. I expect him to be very polite and apologize. A cascade of candor, if you will. Now, immediately, because of Nixon's personality type, this goes checked. And right away, you can literally take out Nixon, put in Trump. And so he's saying, wait, you expect this from a guy like that? And listen to the follow-up answer.
Candor from Richard Nixon? Is this what you expect?
No, it was just a phrase that I thought would appeal to you.
No, it was just a phrase that I thought would appeal to you. It was a glittering hyperbole. He knew not to expect this, but he wanted to give a nice little phrase that would appeal to the television. This is the power of television, and this is the simplicity of manipulation. It literally is. Now, yesterday, we talked about marijuana's advocacy, and I also talked about, Skinny and I were talking about the marijuana pardoning. Since, we're talking so much about Trump, it's only fair that we talk about what Biden's doing in opposition. And so we got into the discussion about the pardoning season. Now every president gets a pardoning season. So Biden had pardoned 11 non-political figures, all for marijuana charges, which would literally be non-existent if they were caught today. Some of these people were serving 20 years. Some of these people were serving 20 plus. Some people were serving fucking life. And we talked about how marijuana was put in to the same, and still is put in the same category as some of the most dangerous drugs in the world. And if you have been watching this show, I've been having a green day every fucking episode. And rarely do I fall off my topics. Rarely do I fall off of what I was saying. Now, this is the part where I'm thinking about like a whole montage of all the times I fucked up. But that would have happened either way. I do not blame the weed for that. So, who did Trump pardon during his pardon season? During his pardoning season, Trump pardoned Steve Bannon, Paul Manafort, Roger Stone, all super rich, super racist, super evil motherfuckers. And finally, Charles Kushner. All right. Now, there's a reason I didn't get to this last night, so I want to make sure I bring this up today. I managed to discover all this shit through research that I'm sure you can get in the net in 5 seconds. But to me, this really blew up in my head, thinking, "Wow, the rivalry makes sense." So when Trump had pardoned all these guys, he had pardoned Charles Kushner. Charles Kushner was on the hook for 12 different counts, 12 different felonies. He should have been serving fucking decades, which these poor marijuana fucking victims sure as hell did. And this is where I don't understand blue collar and white collar crime. White collar crime makes huge differences within the economy and actually makes effect and a huge dent to society in itself, the way we carry on from there. Look at one person like Rupert Murdoch. Look at how much this man has ruined our sense of honesty, the way we look at the news, and literally by just throwing in a pseudo news company, he managed to change everything. And now we have entire parties that are only loyal to one guy, whether he raped your mother in your face or not. You would still fucking love him. He's not going to win. It's not happening. All right. You guys can jump over these stupid ass polls all you want. It ain't happening. There's way more of us than there are of you. Now, we also talked about voting, and I totally disagreed with Skinny on this one. He said that the Gen Zers are not showing up. I definitely disagree with that because I've made many times I've mentioned the numbers and the statistics of how the modern 20-somethings are actually voting, and we didn't. But getting back to Charles Kushner. Charles Kushner, like I said, on the hook for all 12 of these counts. Also, witness intimidation. Now, this one's really interesting. This piece of shit actually got a witness's husband that to be trapped. It was a honey trap. So they got a hooker. It always involves a hooker, a hotel room, and a camera. That's really all I got to tell you. And infidelity. So he cheats on his wife, yada, yada, yada. They filmed it. They got blackmail on a fucking witness. So he gets witness tampering. Now, this would have cost any of us 20 years. He got 2. And who put him away? Christie. And who fucking lets him out of his cage, like, right away? Donald Trump. That is where I think there's like this big in my head. And it's just, I couldn't believe it. I mean, it just made so much sense all of a sudden why they hate each other so much. And an interesting fact of that, it's just goddamn. Another interesting fact is that when you go to these Turning Point USA, events, they're not symposiums. They're just events. They're like Comic-Con for really boring and racist people. And so Turning Point USA it's a dark right fucking bullshit event and dark money. And so the dark right, the super evil right, MTG, Bannon, all those motherfuckers, they're all there talking about policy changes and all this dumb shit. And what's really funny is that there are no fucking journalists. Turns out on either side of the aisle, we don't see any journalists. So there's 150 people in this room and maybe 3 journalists. So they really keep the information condensed, narrowed, and esoteric. So that way it stays on one topic. It doesn't surprise me, but and to be fair, it's not like no, fuck that. We watch this shit and we're seeing this guy like as if he never was a president in the first place. So I want to bring this up because I think it really is important to say, wait, you think you didn't have to uphold the rights of the Constitution? I mean, how anti-American can you get? Literally. I mean, you can't get much more anti-American than that. So Ben Mycelis is going to show the latest
results of the 2020 election, and specifically his conduct relating to the January 6th insurrection constitutes official acts. He's saying that was the job that he had to do as a United States president. These arguments are frivolous, they're dangerous, and they're treasonous and traitorous. Let's go one by one, and as you're spending time with your family and you're maybe introducing them to the Midas Touch Network,
why would okay, Ben, you're going too far on that one. I hear that a lot lately. Don't throw politics at your children. I hear that all the time. Like on Fox News, when Henry Kissinger died, the anchor woman asked that you turn around in the car, driving the kids to school or whatever, tell them some great Kissinger quotes. This is a war criminal, a guy responsible for more death than fucking HPV and HIV. And fucking, I mean, seriously, he's killed more people than certain disease. And he's like a pure evil like entity. He's not even a human being. Why do you think he lasted 100 years? You don't live 100 years unless you got some juice flowing. Like, they had some Bane juice keeping that fucker alive. It's pretty much whatever they're using to keep McConnell standing. And so, where was I? You know, this moron is going around acting like, you know, when he first came out with his the newest campaign. Oh, I'm over time. Oh well. Hey, keep it down over there. And so anyway, I just want to bring up for the fact that when it came down to that the witness tampering, I say witness tattering. When it came down to the witness tattering, the witness tampering. It's funny that they use the same honey trap, you know. A fun fact is that the Lufthansa heist in Goodfellas, I know I'm going back, but I forgot to throw this out there. But you know, have you ever seen Goodfellas? You remember the Lufthansa heist. Well, the Lufthansa heist, they didn't tell you the full story, or they actually didn't tell you the real story in the movie, because in real life, what they did was a honey trap to the guard at the airport. So there was no inside guy at the bar telling them, you know, it's totally, you know, the guy from Dumb and Dumber, he was in it, and he's like, it's totally untraceable. It's great. Well, actually, they didn't have a guy like that on the inside. So what they did was they got him a hooker and got him a hotel room, you know, did a honey trap, you know, had a hooker come in and just pretend to like him, and he went for it. And they took the key and copied it and then put it back, and that's how they got the Lufthansa heist. So just a nice, fun little piece of factual information for you. And the reason why we're really going after Charles Kushner so hard, by the way, is because I want to cover Jamal Khashoggi tomorrow. And so I just want to get you guys a little bit familiar with who he really is, and the whole point of Trump, the Saudi money, the fact that he is a slave to Saudi interests. And we're really going to get down to all that shit. But when it came down to people when it came down to the point, the people that Trump had pardoned were all billionaire friends of his. And the guy Biden pardons are all strangers and regular citizens that really needed that and just saved their lives. So there's a huge difference in presidencies. And again, when he first started, it seemed like Trump knew it seemed like Trump's idea was to talk about his own accomplishments, which is what a normal former president would do, is talk about their actual accomplishments instead of golden showers and ridiculous shit like that. And so that's what this next segment's going to be about. And to be absolutely fair, and I really try to be fair. It's not like Trump didn't make accomplishments. There were accomplishments made. He signed a lot of those tax cuts that we needed, the Jobs Act, one of the largest Jobs Act reforms in history. He added 6 million Americans to the getting wage increase. Oh my God, wage increases, not rage increases. But yeah, I mean, he got 6 million people increases in their wage, doubled the child tax credit. So you actually got more money if you had kids under his presidency. Eliminated the death tax. He helped with what was it, like a 20% tax cut for families, family businesses, and helping relief on taxes. And even though this was kind of accidental, he poured billions into Obamacare, even though he fucking hated it and just wanted to be called Trump Care because he knows it sounds better. And in all fairness, it does sound better. But we know what Obamacare is. That's the difference. We know what Trump is, and we know what Obamacare is. And I need my Obamacare. And you would literally be kicking off 10 million people off their insurance if you were to just cut it off. And they could do that if they felt like it. And yeah, luckily we have a president like Biden that would never let that happen, because again, 10 million people without health care is going to mean a lot of money in debts to not only people in debt for medical bills, but I mean, no one's going to pay their medical bills. Nobody's going to be able to go to the hospital. It's just terrible idea.
Show the facts here. We show the receipts. We show the documents here on the Midas Touch Network. So first, I want to show you Donald Trump's brief that he filed with the Colorado Supreme Court. And for those of you saying, no, we couldn't argue that he didn't take an oath to support the United States Constitution, here is the summary of argument. This is Trump's legal brief. He says, the framers excluded the office of president from Section 3 purposefully. Section 3 does not apply because the presidency is not an office, quote, under the United States. The president is not an officer of the United States. And President Trump, this is what they're saying in Trump's brief, Trump did not take an oath to, quote, support the Constitution of the United States. And Donald Trump and his lawyers say, oh, protect and defend the Constitution is somehow different than to support the Constitution of the United States. Trump argues he never said he was going to support the Constitution of the United States. I mean, how black and white?
Okay, we can stop there. Wow. To say that you're not an officer of the United States, Trump, dude, you were a president. You're like the officer of the United States, you stupid fuck. So again, and I just talked about all the good things he did. So again, he has accomplishments. Trump has done a few good things for this country, and they're not minor. They're pretty good. But today, it seems like he's acting as if he's never been president. And there's a lot of, gaps in that resume. And to say now that, oh, I never agreed to with uphold the United States Constitution, that is even somehow lower than the very man, Richard Nixon, that said, if you're president, nothing is illegal. So Trump equals Nixon. Actually, I think Trump is actually worse. So now you have seen it all, and we understand why Chris Christie feels the way he feels. And again, with the whole Charles Kushner issue being pardoned by Trump, prosecuted by Christie, began this rivalry. Christie prosecutes Kushner. Jared gets, $2.3 billion from Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman. So MBS and Trump and Kushner all together. And we have heard MBS say, I have Kushner in my pocket. So that has always been the funniest thing to me, is why does nobody question him on the Saudis? Just ask him. If you love him so much, ask him, will he denounce or say anything disparaging about Saudi Arabia? That is what I want to see. Or at least trick his ass into saying something bad about MBS. Because tomorrow we'll be talking about Jamal Khashoggi, and that is a future that awaits anybody that fucks with MBS. All right? And let's hope it's Donald Trump. All right? Love you guys. That's my time. Stay safe. Stay all that friendly stuff. And most of all, stay cheesy, my friends. In a world like today, we seriously must remain cheesy at all times.
Welcome to Useless Agent.
Later, Dad.
Your safe space from stupidity and the magazine scary culture. You are all fair game in the eyes of the wicked, and we see you. Here we go.
Oh shit, motherfucker! I'm Kenny Rogers! No! We suck again!
The greatest arrogance of all, save the planet. What? Are these fucking people kidding me? Save the planet? We don't even have to take care of ourselves yet. We gotta learn how to care for one another. We're gonna save the fucking planet? The planet has been through a lot worse than us. Been through all kinds of things worse than us. Been through earthquakes, volcanoes, plate tectonics, continental drifts, solar flares, sunspots, magnetic storms, the magnetic reversal of the poles. Hundreds of thousands of years of bombardment by comets, asteroids, and meteors, worldwide